Approval of minutes from last meeting? Yeah. Are there any revisions to the draft minutes sent out ahead of the meeting? I think it was the May 14th meeting. Hearing none. The minutes are approved by unanimous consent as distributed. Okay. Additions to the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda?
I'll go ahead and jump in. I have a couple things that I'm adding to my officer report that were not on the agenda originally, so I'll be going over some migration and biblical updates. And then we had a question come in for Find More that we will tack on to our Q&A section.
Sounds good. Okay, officer reports. I got nothing. Jeannie?
I have nothing, but I'll raise my hand if I see any comments in the chat.
Okay, good. Dustin, any reports?
I have none.
Gotcha. Moving on to CCS staff reports. Kiara?
Yes, I have a few things, so I'm going to share my screen. All right. Can you see my PowerPoint? Yes? Okay, beautiful. So I am going to talk through a couple updates that we have. Um, I'm just going to take a look at the chat real quick. Okay, beautiful. And then make sure no one's waiting. Okay. So at the last meeting, the team requested a new ILL Library Outstanding Billing report, and that has been put together by Bob. So I'm actually just going to exit my PowerPoint to show you how to find that. So if you pop over to Web Reports, you are going to select the financial report, and you'll scroll down, and it now lives here under the ILL Library Outstanding Billing. And so that's going to be a really useful report that's going to list out the the date, the library, the title, and the barcode of the item, the billing reason, the amount balance, and the billing library. So again, that should hopefully answer some of those questions that you had from the last meeting. Again, if you are looking for it, it's going to be under the financial reports and web reports, and it's called ILL Library Outstanding Bills. And I want to open it for you, but I don't know if my screen will show the sheet. So let me know if I need to change the sharing. Can you still see my screen? Can you see the Excel sheet? Beautiful. So this is what it's going to look like. It's going to have the library's name in the C column. Any questions about this new report? Has anyone used it yet? No? Okay, hopefully it's helpful and it's what you were looking for. Exit out of here. Next up, I have a update just to remind you all that it will be the Rails Count Week next week. So you will be counting the total number of containers and items from August 24th to the 28th. This might be related to your ILL or circ staff, so just something to keep in mind if it's a task that you have. Waiting for questions. Okay, awesome. Next up, we have a BiblioCore update. We now have 20 libraries that are live on BiblioCore. We have 4 that are in preview and 6 that are in extended preview. There's more information on the CCS website if you're curious about what's going on with BiblioCore and where we are on our schedule. We also have a webinar today. I believe that it's Gayatri or Mieko or both that are going to be talking about the BiblioCore Browse and Discover webpage. This is today at 2. If you're interested in going, the registration on L2 is now closed, but if you send us a help desk ticket, we'll send the link your way so that you can join. And then lastly, you may have noticed that we have had some performance issues with BiblioCore. There's been some updates, some increase of 500, and we're very sorry errors. This was an error that was happening across all BiblioCore customers, but should now be fixed. We have not learned what the issue was, what was causing it, but if you notice any issues moving forward, since should now be resolved, please let us know ASAP. Comments, questions, concerns about BiblioCore? Okay. Rolling Meadows and Wakanda, we are quickly approaching migration. Our official offline schedule has now been released. We will have Rolling Meadows and Wakanda staff going offline beginning on Friday, October 16th. And then on Saturday, the rest of CCS libraries will follow suit. We will go offline through Monday, October 19th. And then if all goes well, we will have all CCS libraries, including now Rolling Meadows and Wakanda, live on Polaris on October 20th. So that's that Tuesday. I also want to point out to this group that from Saturday through Tuesday, we will not be processing FMI requests. Just plugging another webinar that we have scheduled on October 1st at 1 p.m. Mieko and I will be leading a go live an offline demo review. So if you just need a reminder of what that looks like, how you're going to be processing things, please feel free to register and join this webinar. All right, I know that we are pretty much experts on the whole migration process, but are there any questions that you may have for us?
What is the total number of libraries that we'll have then in our consortium?
That will be 34 libraries. Yeah. Very, very exciting. I was doing the circulation training for Wakanda Rolling Meadows yesterday, and everyone's super excited and ready to go. So looking forward to it. All right, hearing no other questions, that was the end of my updates.
All right, so old business. No old business, yeah. And then new business. First new business we have today is a Find More Illinois Q&A with Barb and Eric. Oh, before we do that, there's this Rails libraries with XWH routing codes. There's a new one with Wakanda and Rolling Meadows in gold with the rest of us.
And I will go ahead and drop that link in the chat so you all have it, and we'll also share it out in the follow-up email. Sorry, Amy, I forgot to make this an addition to the agenda.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
All right. So we will go ahead and jump into our Find More Illinois Q&A. We have, here, I'm going to stop sharing for just a second so that we can see. All right, hello everyone. We have Eric and Barb from Find More Illinois here. I was not here at the last ILL meeting, but I understood that it was a very exciting, it's a successful one. So we have invited Eric and Barb back to help us answer any Find More questions. So I hope that you have all come ready with them. I did have a question come through from Lori. Lori is not here today, but I wanted to go ahead and read it out and we could kick it off with that if that sounds okay. All right, so Lori had a question about a place for definitions for all the possible actions in Find More Illinois. So like thinking about a cheat sheet about all the actions that you can complete in Find More. So that might be a little bit on the Rails side. And then she also would like to know if anyone has anything that connects it to the associated action in Leap. So for example, a loan is renewed by a lender in Share It, then the next step for us to do in Leap is to go and manually update the new due date in the NSIP account. So she's wondering if anyone has a cheat sheet for that. I wish. I know, wouldn't it be nice? So you're giving me ideas for something I should create, I hear.
Is it something that Rails should be providing to us?
So I think it's more on like a combination. So half of what what the share it side is, and then half what should we be doing in Leap. So it could be a combined effort as well.
Okay, gotcha.
And she just wanted to check, does that exist anywhere? Oh, yes, I got it, Dustin. And if it doesn't exist anywhere, that sounds like it's something we would want. Okay, hearing nothing, I'm gonna say that this probably does not exist at a library yet. Is this something that would be interesting? Go ahead, Eric.
I just wanted to say that the iShare libraries have done that. The people at Carly have set up a pathfinder of sorts for what you do in Alma versus what you do in Share It. And
Mhm.
I'd be happy to show you that. I know that you're using different systems, but just to see the format, it has two levels. One level is more generic. You need to do these things in Alma. You need to do these things in Share It. And then there's a more detailed version where it just walks you through the steps. And I can give you, if you need examples to start creating your document, I'm happy to share those with you.
That would be fantastic. Thank you, Eric. So like a cheat sheet.
The only thing to keep in mind with the iShare Carly one they're using Alma is that NSIP is not a possibility with Alma. So you guys have that advantage, whereas they don't. So there's going to be probably extra steps that they're taking place in Alma that you won't need to in your ILS.
Okay, great. All right, I think that answers the question from Lori. We'll go ahead and start working on a document to share out. And I am going to open up the floor for any other Find More Illinois questions. So please feel free to either drop them in the chat or come off mute.
Fremont has a question.
Go for it.
Um, we find lately that we're having patrons who are placing holds on items owned by CCS libraries, and then they're requesting the same thing through Find More, and it's not passing it to the local system. So I'm getting duplicates, the stuff I'm getting through CCS, and then he's able to do it on Find More. And it's happening a lot with CDs, DVDs. Does anybody else have this issue?
We have a couple that have been doing that. Usually it goes into the unfilled. We just make sure that they have it held in the regular, or it'll say not unfilled, I'm sorry.
I thought that it would go into the pass to local system and that would be it.
Right.
And then
Yeah,
I would,
that's what mine usually do, pass to local system. I just make sure they have it held in their regular account, and then we delete it from Find More.
Well, and it also just seems like it's not doing that pass to local system. I mean, I thought that, I thought that when you're in Find More, if we have it available in the local system, it just passes it off to that.
It gives you a notice, but it doesn't automatically pass it. You have to manually put the hold in.
We've had some that have automatically done it and some that do not. I mean, we always look, but again, this seems to be like, that it's a hold is being placed in both places, so the guy is getting duplicate things. And I know we could just send it back, but it just seems like, and that's not functioning correctly. And it seems to be AV materials that we're having the issue with, usually not, print.
I see Lake Forest has hand raised. Do you want to jump in? Yeah.
Yeah, we have a comment by Kim from Northbrook. She says, yes, she submitted a ticket and she's still waiting for a resolution. Lex Jackson says ours included a couple of print for what it's worth. Natalia said we received duplications too. Rather than pass through the local system, the holds for these items that are CCS libraries are coming back as unfilled. Kelly says we had it happen a couple of times too with books. So it seems to be a situation that's happening at multiple institutions here.
Okay, so I can jump in and recap a little bit, and Eric, maybe you can give us an update if one is available, and if not, let us know what next steps are. So what we have seen from our testing is that when patrons are placing a request in Share It and CCS owns that item, the system should pop up and ask them if they would like to pass it to the local system or to place that request in CCS. And then it should stop them from placing it in Share It. But from our testing, what we've noticed is that patrons are not receiving that pop-up, and then the system places it in Share It, and then again also passes it to CCS. So then patrons are getting an ILL item through CCS, and then it's also being shipped through Share It. Eric, I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Do you? Yes, go for it. Thank you.
Unfortunately, I don't have any news, but this is an open case that they're working on. And as some of you have said, the results are inconsistent. And if I can share something with you, let me see, this will work. Just to see, just so you can see what it looks like. Let's share the screen. Hopefully you can see this. So yes, as designed, and hopefully you're seeing my screen with the case that was opened by Northbrook. What staff and patrons should see when they request something that's owned by CCS is this pop-up that indicates this is owned by CCS. Please click yes to redirect to the catalog and place a hold. Or if you're staff, you have a staff override option where you can place the request anyway. This is displaying inconsistently, and this is an issue. This is a bug where sometimes this pops up, sometimes it doesn't, and Share It will accept the hold. Sometimes it doesn't, and Share It won't accept the hold. Sometimes it's working as we wanted it to, where the patron is given the option to place an NSIP hold from Share It, basically place a Polaris hold request via Share It. But that's not working consistently either. So this is a big issue. They haven't found the reason for this. I find it very interesting that some of you have said that it's specifically with non-book items, DVDs, CDs. I wonder if that's a clue. What I would ask everyone would be to send us the Share It request IDs of those things that you're finding should not have been placed, because there are copies available or not available in CCS. I'd like to get more examples to give back to the Share It support team, and hopefully the additional examples will provide additional details that will help us find the problem and then fix it. But unfortunately, this issue is still unresolved. They're still looking at it. The best that we've been able to get from them so far is that, yes, we're seeing exactly what you're reporting. That's all we know at this point. They don't know why it's happening. I wish I had better news, but that's where we're at. Questions, comments?
All right, we have a question in the chat from Megan. Here's a question: I've run into repeated issues with setting a due date before I send a book off when a library requests an extended due date, and the new, usually for a book club related, and the new due date never saves. I always have to wait until the book is received by the borrower to do a renew by lender. Do you run into that issue?
I have one on my desk right now that I'm waiting to.
I've run into this issue, and what I do is I renew it, and then I put a note um, in the file showing that I renewed it to a particular date and on what date that I renewed it, so that I can see that this item has been renewed once and what it was extended to. Because sometimes the travel time takes a while for it to get to the borrowing institution, so I take that into consideration. But I was told that we couldn't extend the date if we clicked a particular button ahead of time. I forget which button it is, but I just watch the received list and make my extensions at that time.
Yara, did you want to address this or should I?
Feel free to jump in. Thank you.
So this is a known issue. This is something that will impact any library that's using NSIP. When you use NSIP, SHAREit takes the loan parameters for a checkout from your local ILS. So when you get a request, SHAREit will apply the loan parameters from Polaris to generate the due date for that request. And it's very annoying that if you manually change that due date and click submit, SHAREit looks like it's accepting that due date, but then if you look back at it again, it didn't, because it's always referring back to the Polaris circulation parameters. That's why you can't manually change the due date in a request at that point. And I don't know who just spoke from Lake Forest, but that's exactly the approach you need to take. Since SHAREit is always going to think that the due date is what Polaris tells it will be, you need to make a lender's note to indicate the real due date so that the borrowing library hopefully sees that note and realizes, oh, okay, they've extended this so that it's not really due. And the due date the request says it's due according to the note that was put in by CCF staff. So if you're doing that, good for you, keep doing that. I apologize for the confusion. I found it very annoying myself when I first started to manually update due dates myself and didn't realize they were being saved.
Thank you, Eric. Megan, we feel good about that. Answers your question? Beautiful. Thank you so much, Eric. I wanted to throw in a reminder that just came up to me because we were talking about renewals. I wanted to remind us all to be renewing overdue items in the NSIP account. Although it doesn't update the due date on SHAREit, so the person who is borrowing it will not see that. Whenever we have overdue items in our NSIP account, it blocks the account and then it makes your library ineligible for fulfilling 5 more holds. So if you're checking your NSIP account and you see something that's overdue, please go ahead and renew that item. And let me know if you ever have questions about that. Oh, go for it. Oh, it's okay. I'll give you a second to type. Sorry, Eric, could you... Okay, first we'll go through Megan's. Basically, I cannot renew items that have gone overdue that have already been returned by the owning library. So if there's a way that I can. Oh, that's a good question, Megan. I hadn't seen that before. Um, Let me go ahead and do some testing, and hopefully I can give you an answer for that soon. So then, just so that I understand. Oh, yes. Okay, so that is a known bug on the Leap side. So when that error comes up, go ahead and open a ticket with me, and I have to open a ticket with Polaris support, and they'll clear it. And once they clear that error message, you'll be able to renew it. Sorry about that. That is an extra step for us. I apologize for that. All right, Eric, do you mind um giving me a reminder of which renewal?
Oh, I forget which library it was, but there was some errors in the history of a request that was
Oh,
renewed,
no.
or there were attempts to renew it. And there were some questions about why those errors appeared. And it was a learning experience, both for me and for SHAREit support, because SHAREit support had been proceeding from the point of the misunderstanding that Polaris didn't support NSIP renewals at all. And it does. It does. It's a limited support in that it will accept the renewal, but it won't update the due date as we've just discussed. You need to manually update due date or add a note in SHAREit.
So just sharing my screen here so that we could see the error. Has
Right.
anyone else seen this NSIP error? NSIP item renewed not supported before. And if you had, you could just drop it in the chat that you have. This is in the record history.
And that's the second part of our revelation, if you will, is that you will see that error if there's not a problem with your side, but there's a problem with the borrowing side. So, for example, Sierra supports NSIP with Share It, but the Sierra ILS doesn't support renewals at all. So, if you have a Sierra library like Helen Plum, who tries to renew something that they've requested through Find More Illinois, you're going to see that request. And that's not an issue with Share It. That's not an issue with Polaris. That's an issue with Sierra. That's just letting you know they couldn't renew it because their system doesn't support NSIP renewals. So it's just another wrinkle with renewals via NSIP. Renewals don't really work great with NSIP in general, but in that particular case, it's not an issue with Polaris or Share It. It's an issue with the borrowing library's ILS. I don't know if that helps. I just wanted to make people aware that if they see that, that's what that's doing. And as the lender, you always have the option to renew things as the lender if you like. Relatively new option, but if somebody attempts to renew something and you'd like to try to renew it, you can. Now, I don't know, and Kiara, maybe you can speak to this. Since, again, NSIP will look at the Polaris circulation parameters. So if a borrowing library tries to renew something and that renewal exceeds your local ILL limit, that's going to be showing up as an error as well. But what I don't know is if you're a lender and you go into Share It and you update the due date, or rather you renew it as a lender in Share It, if that would be accepted, because as staff you're renewing. I don't know if that would override your local ILL limits or not. I would hope it would, but I don't know.
I believe it would, but if anyone has had the opposite experience, please let me know. Okay, hearing none. Eric, we can do some extra testing and take a look at what that's doing. I appreciate you recapping that issue and thank you for the updates.
I think the bottom line that everybody should remember is that pardon for the apologies for the technical speak, but renewals are kludgy. Just keep that in mind. Renewals and Share It are kludgy.
Right. More questions for Eric and Barb.
Kiara, I had a question.
Let's go for it.
You said you received a written question. Did we answer the first part of that written question that we started off with?
Yes. Yes,
Okay,
I think you
good.
did.
Okay.
I think that what we were looking for is if any other libraries had created a cheat sheet and if your team had anything that we could use to put together one. So
Okay.
it sounds like you do have from other libraries. I would be happy to see that and start working on a cheat sheet together.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you checking in. All right, I'm going to give one more minute to see if you have any questions. And if we are all set, I'm going to see if Eric and Barb have any updates to share with us. Barb, I see that you came off mute.
I was going to say, I have a question for everybody
Go for
while
it.
you're here because this enables me to pick people's brains, and I love that. I was speaking with my supervisor, Layla Heath, yesterday, and just kind of were mapping out, growth and development for Find More moving ahead in this coming fiscal year that we've just entered. And we were talking about staff access to Share It. And we know that, it's ILL staff for the most part. I was just curious, especially in larger public libraries, who else might be regularly accessing Share It, if anybody? I mean, I know in some public libraries, it might be just adult services and ILL, and others it's kind of a mix. So I'm just curious for CCS libraries, if there's any other groups within your library that regularly access Share It. Okay. Good question, Eric. Thank you.
So question from Eric, do reference staff log in to place requests for patrons? Barb, I will also save this chat and can send along these
Okay,
notes for
that would
you.
be great. I mean, this is helpful just to get a sense of, in developing training and all sorts of things. Like if we know it's specific departments, we can kind of build things that way. So this is really helpful. Okay, hang on a minute. Kelly at Carrie area has an actual question. I don't want that to get lost in the chat here.
Okay.
Does anyone else have the issue of other libraries using an ILL dash with a few numbers after it instead of the barcode of the item? We've had to go in and change it to the barcode, or Circ staff makes an on-the-fly record. So now we check every time when an item comes in. Eric, have you seen that anywhere else? You have?
Yes, it
Okay.
happens.
Okay.
And libraries will do that. I forget the reason, but I think some libraries do that to track their interlibrary loans within their local ILS. If you get a request and you see something that doesn't reflect the item's actual barcode, please add the item's actual barcode in the item, I think it's the item barcode parentheses borrower field. When you do that, once you receive the item, that should add the appropriate item barcode to Polaris so that you track that checkout correctly. Again, if you see any barcode that doesn't match the item in hand, before you update it to received, just update the request's item ID borrower to reflect the item in hand, and then update it to received, and then click submit, and things should be fine in your system.
Yes, just seconding the please update the barcode before you receive it. Because if you receive it first and then make the change, Leap goes a little crazy.
We don't want that. Okay, I do have an update for everyone. Last time when we were physically there with all of you, or I should say, I told you that, and we are still working on this, have been meeting with Wisconsin's public libraries, their state library, to develop a Share It partnership with them. And somebody had asked me about using Rails delivery that's going to Wisconsin to send items that might not be going through Share It, but are going to Wisconsin, maybe through OCLC or other, ALA form or however. Unfortunately, we will not be able to facilitate that, mainly because it's specifically, the program is just the Share It trading, and we don't want to add additional work to either system. sorting and delivering additional items that are not part of that group right now. Not to say that, if it goes well and after talking to them, maybe they'll be open to it, but right now it sounds like we just want to keep it to share it items. Aha. Thank you for popping up, Kim, because I really could not remember who it was that asked, but I wanted to be sure that the answer got out there. I am still aiming for, and everybody keep your fingers crossed for me, that we can get this launched by early next calendar year. We are still meeting with them, and I'm hoping that everything will be hammered out by the end of this calendar year, probably late fall, which means we can roll it out, I would hope, in January.
All right. Thank you, Barb. Thank you, Eric. I'm looking through the chat just to make sure we didn't miss any questions. But it looks like we've got them all. Are there any last minute questions before we wrap it up? All right. Then Amy, I think we're good to continue. Eric, Barb, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you answering our questions.
Thank you for the invitation.
Okay, the next ILL Tech Group meeting is in person, Thursday, February 18th, 9:30, the CCS offices in the Fishbowl. If there's nothing else, I adjourn the meeting at 10:08.